We have so much to cover and so little time here. But how are things where you guys are? Okay, are you in Hebron? Is that correct, Yishai? Or?
I'm just a little bit north of Hebron. I'm in an area called Gush Etzion, which is just south of Jerusalem, historically known as Judea. And things here are, they're tense. There's a tension in the air. A lot of people, most men are been drafted into the army. And there's a defensive posture because there's a sense that more attacks could come to us from the neighboring Arab villages, and the whole region is heated up. The city of Hebron is also a Hamas city in large part. And
Hamas we'll get into some of the history in just a minute. I just wanted to sort of get us going here. So you're in Hebron, and Barak, you're calling in from Tel Aviv, correct? And things I'm sure are tense there as well, right?
I live in Jaffa.
Jaffa, okay, sorry. Yeah.
And I am talking from Jaffa, and things here are very sad and very tense. Many of my Palestinian friends and neighbors here in Jaffa have family members living and dying in Gaza right now. So all my Palestinian friends and neighbors here are suffering a lot. Firstly, because they have those family members living in Gaza, some of them, but also because nowadays in Israel, people are very much afraid to talk, to speak loud and clear.
Well, that's what I want to do on this show here, and I know both of you well. I really respect you both very much. I know you come from very different political and cultural backgrounds and visions and so on, but this is going to be a program where we can get that out and speak freely and have a dialogue. So to begin, do you know each other's work? Yishai, have you seen any of Barak's movies and films? Or
I'm familiar with the work that he does, and
you are wonderful. Yeah. What are some of your thoughts? What are some of your thoughts? Just
look,
briefly.
I'm not I don't see the Palestinian plight in the same way. I see it very differently, and so to me, it's not attractive, and in fact,
tell us why not. Tell us, for our audience here, set the tone that you want to set here. Give us briefly, and then Barak gets a chance to also dialogue with you. You say it's not an attractive vision that Barak has been portraying in his films and so on. Why is that the case? Educate our audience as to why you feel that way.
I think that the Middle East is a large Arab region. There's 400 million Arabs here in 22 different Arab countries, not to mention Muslim countries like Turkey and Iran and Black Africa that are Muslim but are not Arab. We have a humongous Arab world here. It's bigger than the United States. Within that, there's a tiny ethnic minority called the Jews. And the Jews live on ancestral ethnic land, tribal land. And we are a minority here, an armed ethnic minority, like the Kurds. We defend ourselves from the majority Arab/jihadist ideology that's here. And one of the things that has been created in the last century is in order to undermine the story of the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel and taking up our ancestral land and defending ourselves from a hostile majority has been the creation of a narrative that there's a Palestine here, that Palestine deserves to be here. And basically, to me, Palestine is an effort to undermine the integrity of the land of Israel, of the state of Israel, of the Jewish people's ancestral land. And so people like Barak, who, I'm sure he does it from a good place in his heart, from a place of love. But to me, that work undermines our claim to this area, strengthens the jihadist claims, and basically undermines Israel as a rightful
Right.
heir of this land, a rightful owner of this land.
All right,
And so-
Yishai, let's give Barak then
Sure.
a couple minutes to respond to that. Barak, what do you say to that?
I don't even know where to start. And I'm not an historian, and there are many things I am still learning, but I am very attached to very basic facts. The Jewish people came here at 1948. They established their country. They were the minority. And ever since then, the Palestinian people who lived there before are suffering, and suffering from lack of equalness and lack of freedom. And for me, our existence here is so complicated, as since my grandparents were born in Germany, and they were not Zionists, they didn't care about Judaism, they would never think about coming here. But since Hitler came in power and basically wanted to kill them, they escaped here with their families. But they didn't come to an empty land. They came to a land which was full of people, Palestinian people. Those
Right.
Palestinian people have nothing to do with Hitler and with the Second World War, and they are not the people who have to pay the price for those horrible crimes
Right.
Hitler and his people were
So,
committing.
Barak, if I made it, that's so your family came as a result of that to a safe haven, they thought, right? Israel, and you were born, Yishai, I believe you were born in Haifa, correct? And Barak, you were born not far from Haifa, is that correct?
I was born in a tiny village called
okay.
Kfar Yedidia. It's next to Netanya, between
But-
Netanya and Hadera. And this is where my parents, who are more than
Right.
80 years old, were born.
Got it. But you're both Israelis and you love your country, correct?
No. I love.
Okay, go ahead.
I cannot say I love my country, because you have to define what is a country. I
Okay.
hate the politics of my country.
Right.
I
Okay.
am ashamed to say that I am Israeli. I do love many people who live here. I don't
Okay.
want to live in any other place. This is my homeland.
Good.
And I
Okay.
am very
That's
much
good.
I am very much connected to this place.
All right.
And I don't
That's what
want
and we're trying to find ways of, and Yishai too, this is your homeland too, correct? So let's start with that sort of agreement. There is a love for this
Okay,
homeland.
Well, there's a
So-
love for the homeland, but he
Right.
but Barak made a lot of caveats in order to tell you that he basically doesn't like the country and its policies. He likes the land and the people, and I understand him. And he lives in a very beautiful place. Anybody in the world would be jealous to live in beautiful Jaffa. I know I have a big love for Jaffa. But his take is, I would say, extraordinarily anemic, an anemic sense of Jewish history. In his mind, as he stated, Israel starts in 1948. Well, people like myself don't think that. We think that Israel started at our first kingdom, which was 3,000 years ago, and a second kingdom, which was 2,000 years ago, and the archaeology of which comes out of the ground. The names of the cities of Israel are part of our very vocabulary for thousands of years. Are even the Bible itself, the Torah, talks about us in this land. But for Barak, religion, his parents, he says, it was not important to them, or grandparents. And for himself, I doubt that it's a very powerful ethic.
But
And
speak to Barak directly.
he said what he said, and I'm responding to very simply that I think that it's an anemic connection to the land. And had his parents moved to America, then he would have been a great American, and he would have probably liked the politics somewhat better. But it happens to be by history that from Germany they ended up in in Israel. So okay, so now he's culturally and like personally connected to the people in the land, but it's not a deep connection that
Well,
has a history and has a sense of peoplehood and land and religion and God and Bible and language. It's an anemic vision, and it's an anemic tale, a narrative that he tells, which is
So-
that Israel's born 1948. What a joke!
all right,
Just
wait.
even that,
So
even that
Barak,
itself is
Barak,
untrue. And
Barak,
so
do
and
you-
so and
I
so
hear you.
that leads in the end to an
Okay.
anemic vision
All right, well,
of our
you said
connection to the land.
anemic.
And
So-
therefore, the visual stuff that's created out of it is going to be the stuff that's going to tell an anemic story. But
All right.
but on the other hand, gives a lot of strength to the other narrative.
All right,
Therefore,
well,
it endangers us.
Let's give Barak a chance here. So you've got, you're
wait,
suffering
wait.
from anemia.
What
so
is-
we're going to give you a
what is-
transfusion. Go ahead,
Wait,
Barak.
Yishai, what is anemic in Hebrew? I don't know the word in English.
חיוור, כאילו חסר דם. חסר מאוד לבן, מאוד לא בשרי.
Translate it
Fever.
to us, for us. Weak.
Anemic. You know what the word means.
Yeah, I know what
Okay.
it means. All right. So a weak connection.
Okay.
Is that correct, Barak?
No, not at all. I disagree completely. My connection to this place is very, very, very deep. The connection of my parents to this place is very, very, very deep. It's true that there is nothing there is nothing religious in this connection. Since I am not religious, what can I do? I don't believe in God. My kids, by the way, are not Jewish because my girlfriend is not Jewish. So according to the halakha, my kids are also not Jewish. I respect.
Barak, are they going to stay in Israel, you think?
I hope so. I really hope that we will stay here. I don't want to go anywhere else.
The children.
The children, I hope very much that will live here the same way I hope very much that I will live here, fight for a better life for the Jewish people and for the Palestinian people who live here. I care about this place very, very much. In a way, and excuse me for saying it, Yishai, in a way, I have the feeling that I care for this place more than you do, because according to my beliefs, if this place will be managed in your way, it won't exist anymore. And if this place will be managed in my way, I think less people will die and more people will be safe and happy.
So
We need
that's
to understand what
that's an
saying.
assumption that is hard to prove.
Well,
I would say the
Yishai,
exact same thing on my side, right? I think that what happened just now is a result of weak policies and weak narratives. Go ahead.
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't mean to step on you, but Yishai, what do you understand Barak is saying there about your religious background here? That we hear a lot about that in America and across the world. The religious settlers are offering a very difficult vision for a lot of us to accept. Many of us who are secular, but and are not secular. That vision is causing a tremendous amount of pain and anger around the world. It seems like. Now, that's not to say there aren't some wonderful things that you're doing, that you're trying to accomplish and bring the culture, the Bible. You're talking about setting up a biblical highway here. There's nothing wrong with feeling proud of that background, but where's the problem here? Why is there such a friction between a more, if you will, authoritarian religious control that I think you probably would want in the country, but tell me if I'm wrong, and Barak's vision of a more secular, humanist one?
We didn't articulate visions at any point yet, so I think you're putting a lot of words into my mouth. But
I don't mean to. Go ahead.
In simple terms,
sure.
The vision of the so-called settlers, i.e., brave Jews that hold on to a land that's being terrorized by jihadism, is very simply a much more Middle Eastern style of thinking, meaning to say much more regionally correct, much more like the people around us. Ironically, while people like Barak talk a lot about Palestinian rights, he sounds like a Western colonialist. It's a Western implant. He's godless. He has all kinds, probably, I didn't hear it yet, but all kinds of words about democracy and all kinds of stuff like that. And yet that is not the language of the region at all. This is a region that there's not one democratic country. This is a region that is a religious region that talks about Allah, talks about God, and it's important. History is important.
It certainly is. Yishai,
and therefore our vision, correct? Jim,
go
therefore,
ahead.
The vision for how to move forward in this region and be successful is not to create a secular humanist country, which is a complete misfit in this region. It's much more likely to succeed when we say, listen, you're a tribe, you've got your tribal lands, we're a tribe, we've got our tribal lands. And just like you would demand of us to fulfill your tribal laws if we were guests in your tribal land, so too we demand that of others. And we're going to exist here by pushing back on other tribes that want to take over our lands, want to create alternative narratives that erase us. And anywhere in Israel today, when you go in an Arab store, you could buy a cup, a mug that has the picture of the land of Israel and says Palestine on it, because Palestine is a replacement narrative, just like Christianity had a replacement religion and Islam was a replacement religion to Judaism. Today, Palestine wants to replace Israel. I say, let's live like this region. Let's defend our tribal lands. Let's push back on other tribes that want to take it over. Nobody's talking about authoritarianism. People are talking about a love of our heritage and acting regionally, and dealing with how Saudi Arabia deals with jihad. Do you know that Saudi Arabia 6 months ago took out 83 ISIS members and chopped their heads off on a Friday afternoon because they were endangering the kingdom? Now, I'm not calling for chopping people's heads off, but if anybody wants to endanger our tribal lands, they have to be fought. And then the Arab world will respect us, as opposed to this Western gobbledygook, which sounds nice when you're in Washington Square Park, but it doesn't sound nice around here. This secularist talk basically is something that all the Arabs are like, these guys are not going to last for a long time. We can outlast them, and we are religious, and we're strong, and we're tribal. We just had a tremendous tribal attack on Israel, and Israel doesn't know how to attack us tribally back because they've been totally made anemic with this, Western style talk that sounds nice to Jim Vrettos in New York, but does not sound nice to Muhammad here in Jerusalem.
How does it sound to Barak, though, in Jaffa? So, Barak, your turn. What do you say to Yishai on that?
He's talking about people who are being guests here. But if someone is the guest, then we are the guest, not the Palestinian people who were here before. At 1948, there were more Palestinian people than Jewish people in this region. So he's also saying things which are not correct. But in the deeper level of that, what is amazing me always is that right-wing people like Yishai don't dare to admit and to realize the basic fact that they are in power for many, many, many years. And look what happens. We don't have peace. We don't have security. We just lost 1,400 people. We have around 200 hostages in Gaza. I know
that's
families.
Because of leftism, Barak. For God's sakes, it's not because of rightism. It's because we gave up Gaza. We fought. I was one of the people fighting the Gaza expulsion of Jews, which we said was going to lead to this.
Absolutely not correct. It's not because of leftism. It's because of rightism. And I was also against what Sharon did in 2005 with Gaza, because it was not the right thing to do. Just to remind you that at the beginning of this century, all the Arab world came together with the Saudi peace initiate. All the Arab world came and said, let's go back to June 67 borders. Let's make a Palestinian state, and let's forget about violence forever and ever. Israel did not pick up the phone. Israel couldn't care less about the peace initiate, which all the Arab world was about to be part of. And now Israel is so heavily in shock How did it happen? Now, needless to say, what happened at October 7th is horrible, is unforgivable. There is nothing which can justify what happened at October 7th. I know people, I have friends who lost their parents in the most horrible way. I have friends who have cousins and brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents now being hostage in Gaza. It's horrible, but it doesn't justify what Israel is doing right now in Gaza when 2 million people became refugees. More than 5,000 Palestinian kids were killed. More than 16,000 people in Gaza were killed. And what Israel is doing now is a revenge, is not making sure that people in Israel will live in confidence and security. What Israel is doing now is war crime after war crime after war crime and after war crime. And yesterday, I was very proud to take part in a demonstration here in Tel Aviv, calling for ceasefire, calling for bringing back the hostages, and calling for ending this war. The right wing have to realize that its way did not prove to be right. Now it's the time to change the perspective. Now it's the time to understand that power, violence, and bombing people will not bring quietness. It will only create more and more and more pain, blood, and suffering from both sides. It is so natural and it's so obvious to understand it, and I truly don't understand why not many more people are joining us.
Let me explain to
in
you.
this kind of demonstration.
I'll explain to you why.
Go ahead, Yishai. Go ahead.
Because unbeknownst to you, Barak, the folks at Hamas, when they see on TV you demonstrating, they're like, "This is so funny! Come, everybody, look at this. There's one of these Jews demonstrating to stop the Israeli army from destroying us. This is great. Can we send this guy a check somewhere?" Because they are like, these lefty Jews are always stopping their army from behaving like a Middle East country, and we're going to keep bombing them. We're going to definitely announce great victory and success at the end of this, and much of it is due to sweet Jews who think that violence doesn't solve anything, when they don't understand how the Middle East works. Now, where did this is an amazing turnaround that Barak is offering us. He's telling us that this all happened because of too much strength. So funny. The only reason this happened is because Arik Sharon forced the Jewish communities out of Gaza. He created a Palestine, gave it over to the PA. The PA was summarily thrown out and taken over by Hamas. And now folks like Barak say, but we got to keep doing that. We got to leave Judea and Samaria, which is the heartland of the country historically, and also the high ground. And then we'll give it over to the PA, and I'm sure things will work out. And everybody's like, non-Jews on the airplane tell me, they're like, why would you give your land away to your enemies? That's so dumb. Everybody understands that.
Maybe because it's not your land. Maybe because it's not your land.
Okay, so then leave already, because you're not going to stay here.
No,
because you don't believe in God, and you don't believe it's our land, and you don't believe we have good policies. So why don't you just leave, because you're not going to last here.
Why would you say that, Yishai?
Why would you say that? Because he just said it. He doesn't like the policies of our country. He doesn't think it's our land. He said it's not our land. And he doesn't believe in the ethos of this region. People like him will not last at the end here. They will not last. He's here by this force of inertia. Okay, not because he's culturally Israeli, but if he was culturally American, he'd be out of here in the first place. The point is that you have to have a strength around here. You have to have a conviction. You have to hold the line against the jihad. You know, I was in Washington, D.C. I met a Kurdish activist, and I said to him, you know why you guys have problems with Syria and with Turkey? I said, the problem is that you're sitting on their land. Just give up part of your land, and then there'll be peace with Syria and Turkey. And then we just both laughed, because we were like, oh, the only people that ever say that are lefty Jews, because they think that by giving away your land to your enemy, you're gonna make peace. It's just
giving your land, giving back the land.
Okay, giving back the land that you're inventing, that somehow there was a Palestinian Palestinian people, but there was never Palestinian peoplehood. There was never a country here called Palestine. It was never even capital. It was a backwater farming place. We bought tons of the land. We won it in defensive wars from other countries altogether. The whole narrative that you're weaving is their narrative. And you, again, you don't like the policies of the state of Israel. You think that we're committing war crimes. You think it's their land by your own admission, and you don't have a connection to history or God too much. And so therefore, people like yourself are going to lose ground around here. It's a failure of radical imagination. It's a failure of understanding this region. And at the end, that's why the left is losing power in this country, because it does not have an exciting vehicle of passion to hold on, to fight for what's right, for what's ours, and it's allowing the jihad.
I have a lot of passion to fight for what is right in my eyes. I have a lot of passion. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I am the minority. You know, I'm not blind. I'm not stupid. I know where I live.
And I never thought. I never thought that. I think you're very smart and talented. I only wish you were on our side. That's the truth.
Why are you making the opposing sides here?
Because it is opposing sides, Jim.
He is right. Jim is right. Jim is right.
You could be non-religious, right?
Jim, I promise you that if myself and Barak were in the army, we'd both be fighting on the same side. But we're talking today about competing visions. That's okay. You wanted to have a conversation about competing visions. So we're doing that. We're not. That doesn't mean that if he knocks on my door and asks my wife for some sugar, he's not going to get it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he can't borrow a diaper, but I am saying that we have a different vision for the future of this land. I believe this is our land. I believe this is our historic land. I believe that actually pushing back on jihadism will actually lead to more freedom for more peoples, more Arabs and other peoples in this region. I think they are all suppressed by the jihad. When I was in Gaza before in 2005, Arabs said to me, "Don't give up this place. Don't leave. You don't understand the forces that are going to take over this land. Please," they said to me, "please don't do this. You don't understand. This will destroy our lives, and it will destroy your life in the long run as well."
Yishai, you know what? This is in a way, what I feel now about what's happening in Israel. Israel was taken by terrorists. Israel was taken by ultra racist, fascist, dangerous people like Itamar Ben-Gvir, like Bezalel Smotrich. Very, very dangerous people.
They were not taken by those people. Those people were voted in. Don't make it out to be like some charismatic leader took over the country. The people voted for them because they've rejected the leftist, godless, communist, land giveaway, weak Western attitudes. They want religion. They want nationalism. They want a connection to history, and they want a real way to fight jihadism. Nobody took power. We didn't take power. The people voted for it.
When you talk about jihadism,
yes,
what you're doing now is something which Israeli media and Israeli politicians are doing very successfully, which is so ugly. Basically, they are trying to convince people all over the world that Palestinians are Hamas. But Hamas is like ISIS. So basically, Palestinians are like ISIS. So basically, what you are saying...
Barak, is there jihadism in the Palestinian society or not? Because recent polls say that Gazans, by about a poll of about 70, this is Palestinian polls, 75% support what Hamas did and Hamas ideology. Is that true or not true?
There are a lot.
A lot?
Wait.
Sorry.
There are a lot of extremists in both sides. There are people in the Palestinian side which I am terribly afraid of, and I will do everything possible in my hands to make sure that they will not be the ones who influence our life. There are also very, very, very dangerous and very, very, very violent and very, very, very racist and fascist people in the Israeli Jewish side. Some of them are sitting in the parliament, in the government. What we have to do is to bring more power to the people from both sides who are not so extreme and not so violent, people who believe that blood is blood. Soul is soul. Life is life.
I just want to remind you, Barak, I want to remind you that
Yeah.
people like myself, some of the extreme right people that you characterized, they're actually my colleagues, and I'm not embarrassed about that. I want to tell you something. I am what an ultra nationalist in on the political spectrum. Guess what? I am the spokesman of Hebron. I sit every year at an iftar meal with one of the tribes, the Jabri
give
tribe.
me a break.
No. Don't give me a break. You called my folks racist, ultranationalists. We're the ones that are also, by the way, very pro the Abraham Accords. You forgot to mention that actually under Trump, which probably your camp doesn't like, and when we had Netanyahu at the time, we were moving forward towards regional reconciliation. Of course, the left never gave credit to us. See, we actually believe very much in Arab-Jewish reconciliation, but on a national level.
As long as the Jewish has more rights than the Arab.
In our land, not in regionally. Regionally speaking, I'm a nationalist. I believe that tribal peoples have a right to their tribal lands. I want the Arabs to be successful to live in their tribal lands, and I want to be successful and live in my tribal lands. I want cooperation, regional cooperation. You're right. I don't want to give away my land to anybody else, and I don't want people voting for jihadist parties. And by the way, your denial
that second-rate citizens in Israel, is that correct?
Not second-rate. The regional way of doing
not have the same rights.
We have a regional way of doing things. Already 3,000 years ago, the Bible came up with a fantastic system called resident alien. If you are an other tribe member, you want to live within our tribal lands, you are a resident alien. You are blessed. You have many opportunities. You have civil rights, but you're not going to direct the country in the same way. But guys, you guys are proving to me your point, the point that I made before. You're proving it all the time again and again. You're talking about rights, you're talking about equal rights. This is the Middle East. There is no country here that offers equal rights. There's not one Arab country that has the vote, not one. And yet you're talking about equal voting, this and that, and it proves what they say all the time. You are Western colonialists. And that's what I have to say, Jim, that my friend Barak, he doesn't know it, but he acts like a Western colonialist who doesn't belong. He's not even sure it's his land, and he wants Western colonialist ideas. And soon enough, people like him are going to get pushed out. I am talking like a Middle Easterner. I'm not talking about equality. I'm talking about my tribal lands and their tribal lands, and I'm willing to cooperate.
Control and domination, and violence.
Every power in this world controls other peoples. Every power, including your beautiful America, controls other peoples. Every single power. Turkey,
well, maybe it's
Iran,
time to change that. Maybe it's time to have a radical imagination where that world is transformed.
And here's the radical imagination. The radical imagination is that our tribal land, Israel, is controlled by Jewish
tribal land. All right.
Our tribal lands, and our next door tribal countries are Arabs, and we'll have peace by working together for a better Middle East, but not by giving up our tribal lands and not sounding like a bunch of Westerners talking the Middle East as one of the smart commentators here in Israel said. You're talking like you're eating sushi in a region that eats hummus. I'm not talking sushi. Okay, I'm talking like this region. And there's one way to survive.
Sushi. So listen, let me just
Jim, I do have to ask for an apology. I find this conversation to be fabulous, and I want to tell you that I honestly, no joke, respect the way Barak speaks, and I do care for him as my brother and my countrymate, and I think that we have to have this conversation. We have different political perspectives, and that lead to very different policies, but it doesn't mean we can't have that conversation, and I hope that we continue to. And I want to invite you, Barak, to see Hebron for yourself. I'll be happy to also take you to the other side, to the Arab side, to the Palestinian side, and introduce you to people I know. You can go see whoever you want. But I'm just saying, I like to be where he is, which is Jaffa. If you ever want to come out to me and see the way we see the world, just to see our perspective and not try to brainwash you or anything like that, you're always welcome to.
Maybe do a film together, huh? What do you think, Barak?
I will disappoint Yishai by saying that the only times when I am going to the occupied territories is only to demonstrate. I am not getting inside those territories besides going to demonstrate. I was just demonstrating in front of the house of Itamar Ben-Gvir just a couple of months ago. Yeah. And then, of course, the police were attacking us because
Well, Barak, I want to tell you that you're missing out because the ancestral
right.
homeland of the Jewish people is deep and connected and rooted. Happens to be that not so far away from Itamar Ben Gvir is the tomb of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. About 3 billion people in the world believe that that is where they're buried and that it's important to other people. It's amazing that an Israeli such as you would not understand the importance. Yet the rest of the world, Islam and Christendom and most Jews understand it, but what can you do? A great filmmaker in Israel doesn't even know where his forefathers and mothers lie. That to me is indeed a problem. But yet again, I invite you to not just come protest, but to see it for yourself. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be with you. Dr.
Good
Vrettos, you're wonderful as usual.
good
All right.
evening.
Toda rabba.